Good morning, this is Mr. Moore teaching our lesson 25. We're going to be finding our volume using unit cubes. We're now on our practice. Question 1 says the green cube shows one layer of figure A. So this is our green cube, our green space here. It says figure A has blank layers. How many layers do we have here? We see we have 1, 2 layers here. It says there are blank cubes in each layer. How many cubes in each? We see we have 2 here by 2 here, so we know we're going to be 4. 1, 2. We got 3, and the other one will be in the back, so it's 2 by 2 will give me 4. So it says the volume of figure A. If I have a volume here, we know we're going to have our length times our width. It's 2 times our 2, which is 4, times our height. Our height is 2, so it's 4 times 2, which will give me 8. 8. We can go ahead and pause and answer that one, but we can move to this next one also. It says fill in the blank to describe figure B. So we have B here. How many layers do we have here? So we can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers here. So we can type our layers out. That's 4 layers here. Let me type my last layer. All right, we got 4 layers here. It says how many cubes are in each of our layers. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got 5 on the front, but we see we have 2 different rows of that. So that's 5 times our 2, and we would get 10. So the volume of that would be our 10, which is on each of our layers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we see we got 2 rows of that. So it's going to be 5 plus 5, or 5 times 2, which is 10. We have 10 times our height. How many layers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 10 times our 4, which would give us 40. Let's go ahead and pause and answer that. So again, we answered 1. We saw we had 8 cubic units here. For 2, we saw we had 40 of our cubic units here. For 3, it says if you add another layer to figure B, so we add another layer here, what would our volume be? So before we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 2, so we had 10 cubes on each of our layers. Before we had 4, but now we're going to have 5. So that'll be 10 by our 5, and we will get 50 cubic units. We know our answer will be 50 cubic units. Go ahead and pause and answer that. So again, to answer our question, we saw that we could either add 10 more to our 40, or we can have our 10 times our 5 layers and get 50. Moving to our next page. So then we're looking at figure M. It says has how many layers? How many layers do we have here? That's 1. Sorry, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we have 4 layers here. Let me get that writing correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4 layers here. It says there are blank cubes in each of our layers. So each layer has, as again, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we have 2 rows here. So that's 4 times 2, which gives me 8. So again, the volume of it would be, we got 8 in each row. And how many rows? It's 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 by 4 will give me 34. 34. So you can go ahead and pause and answer that one. And it also says figure N is a rectangular prism that's twice the volume of M. So we know we already got the volume for here, but it's going to be twice. So it says how many layers and how many cubes in each of our layers could there be for figure N. So we already know what our volume is here. It's going to be twice that. So we're going to multiply it by 2, and then we're going to determine what our dimensions could be. Go ahead and pause and answer that. All right, so when answering our questions, we know we can say that N could have 4 layers with 16 cubes in each of our layer, or it could have a 8 layer with 8 cubes in each of our layer. That's again if we had double our 32. So now again, if we move, this was for our 32 will be our volume for this one here, because we had our 4 by 8, 4 by 8, 4 by 8. So now we want to look at 6. It says what is the volume of figure R? So for R, we know we have our 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3. That's 1, 2, 3 cubes by 2. We got 3 cubes is the number of cubes on the bottom layer. We have 2 rows of them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be our 6 cubic units for that one. And for our next one, it says how many figure R does it take to fill figure S? And it says, how does the volume of figure S relate to the volume of figure R? And explain. So first we want to see that we already see that we have 6 here, 6 here, and here we can already look and see that we have 12 here. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 3, but we have 2 rows of it, so that's 6 on each of our rows. But we have 2 layers, so that's 6 by 2, which gives us 12. Before we had 6 here, now we have 12. So we can already see that this is also half of this. So if this is half of it, that's just like me saying that R times 2 will give me the volume of S. So we know that S is twice the volume of R, or we can say R is half the volume of S. Let's pause and answer that. So again, for 2, we said that the volume of figure S is twice the volume of figure R. So it says for 8, show how to find the volume of box T. Then draw or describe a different box that has the same volume as the box T. So first, we know to find the volume for box T, we want to find out how many cubes on each layer. So that's 1, 2, 3. We got 2 rows, so that's 6. And then we're going to 6 cubes on each layer. Then multiply by the number of layers we have, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 6 by 4, which would be 24. We know the volume of this T would be 24 cubic units. And we want to see how we can describe another box that can have that. So we're going to have another volume of 24 with different dimensions. Go ahead and take your time. Pause and answer. All right, so we already saw that that for T, it had a volume of 24. So if we wanted to have another, we could have just had a row that had 6 layers, and each of our layers had 4. So we will be multiplying 4 by our 6 and get 24 again, or any dimensions you want. You can have one that had an 8 and 3, whichever you like. As long as you get 24, you multiply your dimensions together. Moving on to our next page. So it says, look at Prism G. It says there are blank layers. How many layers do we have here? We know we have 2 layers with blank cubes in each of our layers. So each layer has 1, 2, 3 times 2, so that's 6. All right, so, and then we're going to answer this together. Blank cubes plus blank cubes equals this amount of cubes, so the volume will equal what? All right, let's go ahead and take your time. Do the same thing for H. Answer and see what your answers would be here. All right, so when answering our question, for 1, we saw we had our 12 cubic centimeters as our volume. Again, we had our 3 times our 2, which was 6, times 2, we got 12. Here, we had, there are 2 layers here with 10 cubes in each. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By that 2, that's 10. So we got 2 layers times 10 will give me 20. We got 20 cubes here. All right, moving on to our last page. All right, so it says, what is the volume of our rectangular prism here? To show our answer, we got to have 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 4 by our 2, which gives me 8. And then we have our 8 times our 2 again, which gives me 16 feet cubed. It says Maya has a box that she filled with the cubes at the right. What's the volume? So we have our 1, 2. We got 2 by 1, which is 2, times our 3, which will give me 6. Let's go ahead and pause and answer 3 and 4. All right, so to answer question 3, we know again we multiplied our 4 times our 2. We got 8 feet squared, and we multiplied it by 2 feet again and got 16 feet cubed. Here we did 2 times 1 and we got 2 inches squared, and we multiplied it by 3 inches and got 6 inches cubed. For 5, it says a box is 2 inches long, 1 inch wide, and 6 inches tall. What is the relationship between the volume of his box and the one in problem 4? So first we need to find the volume of this box. We're multiplying our 2 inches by our 1, which is 2, times our 6, which equals 12. So we know we got 12 inches cubed. If we relate that to 4, we know that's going to be twice the amount of this volume. It's going to be twice this volume. It says, what has the greatest volume, box D or E, and explain. So you need to find the volume of D and E and see which is greater. Question 7 says, add a layer to box D. So we're going to add another one of these layers to box D. We're basically going to add D twice. And it says, compare the volume of the new box D and E. So after I add another layer, we want to compare it to what we said when we added those two together. All right, to answer our question for 6, it says, what is the greatest volume, box D or box E? We see that first we found the volume of D. We have a 1, 2, 3 by 5, and we get 15 cubic units. And we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4, which is a 16 cubic units. So we know E is greater than D. Next it says add a layer to D, so I'm going to add another one of these 3 to the top. If I added 3 to the top, we know our volume then would be 18. So we know our 18 cubic units will be greater than D and E. All right, so now I need you to complete our independent practice on your own. Your independent practice should be done on your own, these pages. And once you're done, make sure you submit your Nearpod. Have a great one.